So Rodney Hinton Jr., right? It came out in the week that he was filing a lawsuit of $25 million against the Cincinnati police. But apparently it wasn't him. So it says, although a lawsuit has been filed against Cincinnati police in the Hamilton County Jail in Rodney Hinton Jr.'s name, his criminal lawyer says Hinton had nothing to do with it. That's because the complaint was drafted by an Atlanta, Georgia woman who told the Inquirer she has never spoken with Hinton and that she filed the lawsuit on her own initiative. The lawsuit filed May 8th in federal court in Cincinnati claims Hinton was subjective to excessive force following his arrest by Cincinnati police. He was arrested and charged in the May 2nd killing of Hamilton County Sheriff Deputy Larry Henderson.
So what's her authority to file this action?
It also claims the deputy subject Hinton to intimidation.
Yeah, I know, but how does she get standing to file it? It has to be personal. She's not the person that was done wrong. She's not an attorney. So just what is she doing?
I don't know. The lawyer said, I had nothing to do with it. My client had nothing to do with it. His attorney is Clive Bennett II, who is representing Hinton in a criminal case. We were totally unaware of it until it was reported by the media. He said, he added, the complaint appears to be frivolous because it wasn't filed by an attorney.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Yeah. So
I mean, in other words, another example, possibly mental health issues.
Possibly. It says Mike Allen, a former Hamilton County prosecutor, said a lawsuit will likely be thrown out.
Of course. A whole lot of lawsuits need to be thrown out these days.
It says the woman who filed the initial complaint as well as an amended complaint 4 days later, Antoinette Holloway, is not a licensed attorney. She filed a complaint on Hinton's behalf and identified herself as a next friend, a legal term that refers to a person who appears in court in place of another who is not competent to do so.
That's usually where you have a juvenile. You have to have a next best friend who stands for the juvenile. Used to have it all the time when somebody was in front of me when I did that televised arbitration. A parent, a grandparent, or something like that came in as next best friend. So anyway.
In a telephone interview, Holloway told the Inquirer she has not spoken with Hinton, but felt compelled to file a lawsuit after reading news coverage online of Hinton's case. She said she doesn't believe Hinton is receiving adequate legal representation.
Oh, God. See, that's what the Democrats have done, is set up this kind of insanity. Excuse me. This kind of strangeness.
And you don't have proof that they use any type of intimidation on excessive force. There is actually body cam of the police officers taking him out of the car from the hospital.
And by the way, you know an exact parallel to this? What Tish James did to President Trump when she brought those things claiming that he defrauded the bank when he made the loan applications. He said, none of them does. We just dealt with ordinary business. We didn't even rely on him. He can make his claim. People do all the time. But she stood in and said, no, you got defrauded in spite of what you say. We said, no, we don't. But you see, same thing. She said he was getting done wrong, so she played Tisha James. That's, if you don't understand what Tish did to Trump, that's exactly it. She did the same thing. She said this man was a victim, so she was going to stand in to protect him when the victim hasn't said anything at all. And the victim's not a victim.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least He hadn't claimed anything right now. So I mean, it's just insane. And that's one of the dangers to what Tish was doing is she set this up so other people who don't know what they're doing will say, "Oh, she did it, so I can do it."
Well, another thing, right? Because listen, I said it before. Ohio, I corrected myself. Ohio does have the death penalty, and they reinstated in 1981, and it has been used since then. So Rodney Hinton Jr. can potentially be faced with the death penalty. Now, what came out recently, I wanted to highlight this. Um, it was a Black Panther movement holds an armed rally to support Rodney Hinton Jr., who faces the death penalty. I just want to play a little bit of this, and this is by way of News to Share.
This law says they got immunity. Well, they're not immune anymore. And Rodney King is sending the message and had the courage to carry out that which we got in our minds and didn't have the courage. But I'm telling you, we're saying he ain't standing by himself. Can I get an amen? Amen. And see, now, they say that they are going to use a justice system because they are concerned and they might want to kill Rodney for avenging his son. We here to say, no, sir. No, sir.
Is that the character?
Now you do that
because his son was running from a stolen car with two other people, and they were armed, got shot down. Oh, give it a break, please. Give it a break. I mean, there's righteousness, and then there is foolishness. So, I mean, what in the devil is this supposed to be right here? You say, okay, somebody is in a stolen car. There's been a high-speed chase. Finally, when it ends, they flee the scene, and there are two guns on the scene. Nobody's disputing that. Once somebody turns around with the gun, you can hear the stuff saying he's got a gun. Look out. So they're supposed to sit there and take fire? Oh, come on. That and if and the other thing, he's innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. But if the facts come out as alleged, he was aggrieved because his son was slain, then that, by the way, is not a defense. It establishes intent, aka motive, for coming up with a first-degree murder. Arguably. That wouldn't.
Well, okay, so I didn't even know that Black Panthers were even still active like this, but I think it's a little outdated to be in front of a courthouse with your guns. That's so 1960s.
Yeah, and it's liable to get the legitimate armed citizens or retributive action against their right to be armed by this kind of thing. The same thing happened back in the 60s when some of the party up in the Bay Area against the rest of the wishes, or against the wishes of the rest of the party and the rest of the state of California, pulled that stunt off of walking into the California Legislative Assembly armed, which quickly resulted in some legislation that made a lot of things people were using to keep peace in a community illegal. It resulted in a lot of people dying. So, I mean, it's not saying that it's just not well taken, but, you know, is what it is.
Well, this person, right, the Black Panther movement, which was outside this courthouse this week, it's quoted saying Cincinnati and America have victimized Black people for a long time with police brutality. Elder Memoja Jabu, Senior Director of Pan-African Affairs, in a release, This is critical to understanding local and national empathy for Brother Rodney. Rodney Hinton Jr. was tired of being tired. We are too.
Oh, come on. Where did these people get this idea? That's not police brutality. You pull a gun on a cop, you're likely to get shot. You pull a gun on an ordinary citizen, you're likely to get shot. So where do we now get this? Somebody that shoots back when somebody pulls a gun on them is somehow or another engaged in brutality. What kind of little fantasy land cookie cutter little Girl Scout cookie place did you come from? Come on.
I mean, listen, I said I was going to do a separate video kind of breaking down Cincinnati, Ohio, particularly because they have had a lot of, you could consider, police brutality. There have been a significant number of Black men between 1995 and 2001 shot or killed by the police when you compare that to any other group, which is zero. So there may be some accurate data evidence to show excessive force used against Black boys and men, and maybe women as well.
Yeah, that's a possibility. But the point is anybody disputing that there were two guns on the scene? Anybody disputing there was a high-speed chase? Anybody disputing that there was a stolen vehicle involved? I mean, you give somebody an excuse, yeah, if they're prone to taking it, you just gave them a free pass.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to share this real quick because this is Rodney Sr., his father, and he's basically calling for forgiveness.
Hard for him and his family because I know he's hurting off this. If I seen in the video to the officers that got killed, my whole family, I'm asking for forgiveness, and I've been praying hard for the officer that killed my grandson. I've been praying hard for him and his family because I know he's hurting off this. If I seen in the video about my grandson, I seen two scared people. I seen the officer scared, and I see my grandson scared. So it's an unfortunate incident that happened. So that's all I seen. It was like, I didn't see the police there try to kill. No. What I seen was two persons made a mistake. My grandson made a mistake being there, and the officer, he was trying to get back to his family too. So that's what I seen. So it's not about revenge or anything. I had nothing against nobody. My Lord and Savior is Jesus Christ, and I represent him. So, with that said, please, everybody, just try to forgive everybody who done anything to anybody.
I can't even express how I feel right now about, I'm angry because it shouldn't have never happened.
Yeah, you might have
I want to find out exactly.
State of mind where he doesn't hang with his homies and they go steal a car.
Well, it is an unfortunate situation because you have Ryan. That was the young boy that died, shot by the cops. I don't think the cops should have shot and killed him because he didn't have a gun in his hand.
Well, you can't tell.
However, he was close enough to tell.
Look, you ever been shot at? I have. And when the heat of all that stuff going on and the adrenaline going in split seconds,
But he wasn't shot at the police officer.
Here's what I'm saying. He wasn't shot at, but the point is not getting shot at, because if somebody shoots, let's say it's a 45 that's 830 feet per second. If it's a 9mm, it's going close to 1,200 feet per second. You're talking about fractions of a second when somebody squeezes that trigger and you have death on your way. You don't sit there and do like in the movies, let me see if he's got I'm mistaken. He looks like he's going to see all the law requires is what might be termed a furtive movement. In other words, under the circumstances, the person that wound up getting shot is making moves or doing things that would lead a reasonable and rational person to conclude that those things he is observing are leading up to somebody pulling the gun and pulling the trigger. And that's the standard. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, in Tennessee, for example, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if you find that under the circumstances as you find them to be, you can show in your own mind's eye that the defendant in this case had a reasonable, even if mistaken, belief that he was about to be subjected to death or serious bodily injury. He does not have to wait. He may react immediately. LAPD, Your Honor, the defendant made a quick movement under his coat as though to go for a gun, and that's why Officer Thompson and I shot him 6 times apiece. Or, why'd you shoot him? Well, he told me it was a holdup, and he made a quick movement under his coat, and I opened fire thinking that he had a gun. I was mistaken, but I was honest in believing that when I pulled the trigger, he was about to pull the gun out. And he doesn't have to wait for him to pull the gun out. Just under the circumstances, is that a reasonable conclusion? See, this boy didn't happen to have a gun in his hand, but somebody else did. So they're all chasing this bunch of fleeing felons. So under the circumstances, the cop may have been mistaken, but was he honest in his mistake?
Well,
see that, I mean,
so just getting back to the father here, because, so that happened to his grandson, Ryan. His son, Rodney Hinton Jr., goes out and sees the unedited tape of the police interaction with his son, shooting, killed his son, gets in a car, and whatever snapped in his head, he did what he did. So it seems like with this press conference, and I had to think about it, the father is basically subliminally maybe trying to plea with the prosecution and the jurors to not give his son a death penalty, to whether it's first degree or second degree, because but maybe this, what he's saying, listen, the officer who shot and killed my grandson, I forgive him, he didn't mean it. And also to keep cool, to keep society, don't try to go out and do something stupid. Let's all, let the legal system do its job.
Basically. Yeah, they may not phrase this, but see, here's the other thing. They may not phrase this the same in every state, but essentially, first degree murder is lying in wait. In other words, you ambush somebody. It's poisoning somebody. It is planning out something where you figure out how you're going to kill the person, when you're going to do it. And see, the other thing is the intent to kill does not have to exist for any predetermined time. It's just if the intent to kill can arise in the person's mind where it is a calculated thing rather than just the sheer product of immediate passion. You walk in the front door with a bouquet of flowers for your wife, and you walk in, honey, I got you. And she's in there screwing your best friend. That's the classic thing of passion or whatever it may be. But if you're angry, he killed my son, one of them killed my son. No. There's an additional thing. It's called malignancy and depravity of mind. You didn't go after the people that actually did it. You just went after somebody with the uniform on, which demonstrates for sentencing purposes an extra degree of malignancy. Now, somebody might say I had what I had to do.
Well, can he claim consequences? Can he claim insanity at that moment because
no, the insanity means you are unable to appreciate right and wrong, or you're unable to conform your conduct to right and wrong. And if you can, then that knocks the insanity defense out. See, he goes looking. So he finds the first somebody he
okay,
finds.
so wait, let me, maybe that's what the defense, maybe that's what the prosecutor
Well, I mean, they'll try and
prosecutor has to prove that he went looking, and the defense is going to try and prove he didn't go looking, he just snapped.
Well, yeah, but see, here's the thing. When you have a capital case where the death penalty is demanded, or in some situations where they're demanding life without possibility of parole, there are two trials that go on in front of the same jury. One of them is to determine guilt or innocence of the charges. First degree murder, or as they put it, especially aggravated murder. The second part of the trial is if they found the person guilty of the homicide, then you go on to the sentencing. So there's a second trial as to whether the state has proven beyond a reasonable doubt that the circumstances attendant upon the death penalty or life without possibility of parole have been met. So the jury will return a second verdict. In other words, we find the defendant guilty of the homicide, and two, we either find that it's appropriate to put him in jail for life without possibility of parole, or we sentence him to die. That's just the law.
Okay.
I'm not taking any sides on it. I'm just stating what general law is, and not necessarily what it is in Ohio. But I think it's absolutely preposterous that we keep coming up with this rationalization. See, last night I was in some place, and it wasn't a bad place, but some people sitting around me were commenting on how some other folks sitting at the bar were cussing and carrying on and getting loud and boisterous. And the people at the bar thought this was normal, and they probably would have excused it, but there were a whole lot of other people in there that were very highly offended. Okay, I was in a gas station 2 or 3 weeks ago pumping some gas, and I watched the scene develop, and I'm saying, I hope nothing comes out of this, but if one of them wound up getting shot, I'm sure their family would be hollering about nobody had any justification. But as a trained jurist, defense lawyer, prosecutor who's done this for years, if somebody got done in, or this person is acting, this fool got done in, there would be ample justification under the law. So I just said, oh, well, I guess I'm going to have to wait till the police get here and identify myself as a witness. But it didn't develop. The other guy was extremely tolerant and basically said, hey, man, I don't have time for this. You go on and do your own thing. I'm out of here. The fool that was about to get shot was trying to block him from leaving.